Hey, Jake's back and he's got his own show. He's on the mic and he's ready to go. Noodle on his left, Jess on his right. Hey, hold up, don't start a fight. He's got you covered with all the sports. Don't fret, he's wearing shorts. It's time for Waking Jake in the morning, Waking Jake at night. Jake sucks.
Woo! Good morning, Bakers. What is going on, everybody, as we are now 32 hours from the trade deadline as we record this, something like that. We'll see if we get something during the ep. That's kind of the great game we are playing the rest of the way until the deadline is at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I think all of us kind of assumed 4 p.m. for whatever reason.
It like is confirmed like different from previous years, right?
I believe so. My heart believes so.
I think they probably...
Maybe
I was going to say, are
did
they
it,
following the NBA's
maybe
example?
they did it one other year because I think they're starting to realize that if they have the trade deadline, they can do like an MLB Network trade deadline show at like 7 p.m. and people will watch it because people like baseball.
Like 6 versus 4. Some people get home in time to tune in from work.
West Coast teams get more time to trade.
True. Something.
Not like really a real thing, but who knows?
It shouldn't be. Like in the past, they started shuffling around and stuff for when it's gonna like fall on a Sunday or whatever else. Pandemic year,
Clamdemic. We did have a couple trades happen, especially since we last talked. Not as exciting in the baseball realm because it felt like it was starting. It felt like it started to go. Was Benintendi the first?
First, like, real one.
That was the first real one. That was after the Mets series.
Like, I guess Mets did Vogelbach first.
Vogie, who's a solid player.
Starts for them.
Could see him doing things. I'll say Benintendi was the first big one. Vogelbach is half a rental. He's still kind of in his ARB years. I think he has an option for next year. So, he's Dan Vogelbach. He's jumped around a lot of different teams by this point. If he gets hot for a little bit, he can be a dangerous hitter for you. He's got pop. I think he's got the best swing percentage in the zone this year or something. So he's a very
so far so good for him in Queens.
Solid ball player. You kind of know exactly what you're going to get.
Shea Station being recorded right now.
Right now, Jerry Blevins in studio next to us. Said hi. Gave him a nice hug. The Yankees traded for Andrew Benintendi. A lot of you remember him from his Boston days. Was an up-and-coming, I don't want to say star of the league because sometimes people take that
people have different definitions of what
differently,
a star
but,
is.
Finished second in the Rookie of the Year as a 22-year-old for the Red Sox.
And that was second to Judge, who had, like, the greatest rookie year ever.
He was really strong defensively. It seemed like he was going to be a key part of Boston for the next 6 years, 7 years, minimum. He came back in 2018, and he had a really nice season after his second in the Rookie of the Year. 830 OPS, 290, 366. Again, high-level defense. The Red Sox go on to win the World Series. He was a big part of that team. He made that crazy catch in Houston. Came back the next year, Benny Biceps. Peter Gammons, a lot of weird tweets about Benny's body that not everyone knew what to do with at the time. Turned out Gammo was right. And he just had a very mid-year, an OPS plus of 99.
Very mid.
Yeah, it was a mid-season. And I think he saved it towards the end, but those numbers were worse. COVID season, he's hurt. He hits 103. That whole Red Sox team was broken. Who was their manager that Jimmy just couldn't deal with?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. the old guy.
Right? I can picture him. Red Sox intern.
Ron Renicky.
Ron Renicky. God. I mean, that Red Sox team was a shell of itself. Very much without Cora, who had been their kind of fire. And then it was kind of push come to shove time. I mentioned some of those early good seasons. What does that do for a baseball player? It drives your ARB number up. And, Red Sox fans were debating going into 2021, Benny was going to make $6.6 million. And I don't know, Boston kind of landed in a weird place with him. The reports kind of were they told him not to get bulky. He got bulky. He sucked. And I think there was some kind of communication, almost a push come to shove. He goes to Kansas City last year. He wins the Gold Glove in left field. Would have to dive into that a little further, but I think the numbers were there.
It's like positionality, half funny business, but in his bulky times, his defensive numbers shot down, his speed literally went down, and things like that. That now this year, he kind of went full contact. He was getting shifted on earlier in the year, and he's one of the guys in baseball that can handle a bat well, so he was just kind of beating the shift, and that was leading to hits, which was leading to getting on base. That gave him, in Kansas City, a .320 batting average, .387, .785 OPS, a .123 OPS plus. He gets traded to the Yankees. He will be playing left field for them. That has been their all year. Gallo is on his way out, presumably in the next 32 hours. Even if not somehow, you put Benintendi in left field. There will be times when he slots in the top of the lineup. He'll mostly be towards the bottom. And the Yankees lineup has been really good this year. I mean, Judge cooks the books a little bit. Yeah.
Like a lot of the numbers say the Yankees
if you butter knife him out.
A lot of the numbers say the Yankees have the best lineup in baseball. Judge is 42 now homers. 43, yeah. 42. That helps. Judge and Rizzo have more homers than the Detroit Tigers this year. So Judge cooks the books a little there, but the Yankees offense in general
Satan's homers are there
has been good. DJ LeMahieu has been really good. Judge is on an MVP pace. Rizzo has been good. Gleyber Torres. They add Andrew Benintendi that even if he regresses a bit, what he can provide contact-wise, getting on base-wise, he's been drawing the walk this year. And again, this is 7th year of Major League Baseball. The longer you stay in the league, usually the better eye you get. You've seen all the tricks before. Andrew Benintendi should be the perfect fit in what the Yankees team was missing. Showed his speed on the bases a little bit, can still run. He should be a perfect fit there. For the Yankees, it's what else are they going to add? And maybe we'll get there in a little bit because a lot of Yankee fans thought that if Juan Soto wasn't happening, which it's kind of been quiet on that.
That's kind of the biggest thing sort of holding everything up.
People are assuming that's what's holding up everything. The Padres are super interested in Juan Soto. As are a lot of teams, but they supposedly have the pieces to make it work.
I think there was a tweet I saw this morning, forget from who, that they've made the most calls about Shohei. Nobody believes that trade will happen.
Right, and
But the Padres want to make a big move, I guess is the point.
It feels like they are holding everything up. That's not confirmed yet, but if they can get Juan Soto, it feels like they are the number one in the clubhouse to try to do that. If they don't, Ian Happ, could Wilson Contreras be on the table for them? I don't know. I don't think that's one of their main priorities. But Luis Castillo, that's why I started segueing there to the moving pieces. Luis Castillo went to the Seattle Mariners, which wasn't a name on the top of a lot of people's minds. They they were middling. They were staying like a couple games under 500. They hit their hot streak, their winning streak. I think they ended up winning 14 in a row, something like that. That flipped their whole season. The energy there feels totally different. The Angels got off to their hot start. They are now a dead team. The Rangers are kind of right where you'd guess the Rangers would be, 46 and 55. It's a 2-team division. The Astros have essentially already run away with it, 12-game lead in the division. But the Mariners are 55 and 48, kind of competing with the Blue Jays to be the third best team in the American League, which if you're the Mariners, that's kind of where you want to be. And man, this franchise, we talked about it on the last episode of Talking Baseball, they haven't been to playoffs in over 20 years. 2001. Like, that's, I say the phrase, spoiled Yankee fans. Winning record since 93. You know, playoffs are almost a guarantee in Yankee land, more or less. There was a couple weird years in there for Yankee land, but either way.
They're still involved, and as a fan base, in real time, you expected them to make
It's a winning record. I think they've sold at the deadline like once.
Yeah.
They
and
turned
it's
Chapman
like a
into
famously
Gleyber
kind of fake selling.
Yeah, and they re-signed it. So, like...
They sent the expiring guys. They
Yeah.
didn't trade like anybody with any value.
So, the Seattle Mariners, who haven't been in the playoffs in over 20 years, they had their juice kick in. Julio Rodriguez is a future star of the game and best player on the team. By the way, he gets hurt this weekend playing Houston. We'll see what that does. They go get Luis Castillo and add him to already a strong rotation. Logan Gilbert is really good. We need to talk about him more. He's a 25-year-old stud. Robbie Ray won the Cy Young last year. He pitches in Seattle. Chris Flexen is very solid. George Kirby, super talented young pitcher. And then Marco Gonzalez, I always think it's funny. When teams make the turn from being a bad team to a good team, there's usually a player that's the example of how much better that team has gotten. Marco Gonzalez was like their one for the last...
Started like a
4
few
years.
opening days.
And now he's currently listed as their 6th starting pitcher. So the talent in Seattle has changed. Luis Castillo, it's a 1.5-year, so they'll also have him for next year. And they paid a big price tag, which also may be part of the reason this deadline slowed down. Luis Castillo, for a 1.5 years, got them the number 1 prospect for Seattle, which you have to be tricky with when you say that because
Like a number 1 in this
that
system
can mean a lot of
is
different things. That can, a top 10 prospect in the league is very different than if your number 1 prospect is ranked 86th. Noelvi Marte, we'll see what he turns into. I'm only really familiar with him from MLB The Show. Shout out.
He's on MLB Prospect Pipeline. He's the number 17 prospect in baseball.
17. Fangraphs has him as 11. So he's a legit top prospect.
And within the Reds organization, he's now their number 1
Yeah.
on this website. So
Yeah. So they had to give up a real one. There was 3 other prospects in there that, I think one has a chance to be a high leverage reliever, which, that's still not something you really pay for unless they're crazy bona fide chance to be a closer. And then a couple lottery tickets. There's an 18-year-old that's supposedly a good fielder. No idea, man.
yeah,
I saw some people commenting like, he's going to be the one. It's like, you have no idea.
he is very, very young. So is Marte. 18
Yeah.
versus 20. Marte slots in as the Reds' number 1 prospect now, and Arroyo, the other infielder, is their number 6, and he's 18 years old. Be excited if you're Cincinnati.
Sure. I hope the kid's a stud. We were laughing. They said he's got a low floor because his glove's that good. Sure. Let's find out, man. So if you're the Reds, I think you're half happy. if you're Seattle, you have to be elated. Your franchise was hoping to get into this position. They did get into this position. And now for the next 2 years, at least this year and next year, Seattle should be a playoff team with some real aspirations. For this year, I don't know. Let's see what the rest of it looks like. Their rotation and bullpen is legit. Their lineup is still, I don't want to say a little thin. I like a lot of the names. I just think when you think of a top of the lineup like Houston or the Yankees, Seattle doesn't have that.
They're not at they don't have like a single hole. It's just they could use somebody that's the top of the line.
It's Julio Rodriguez and Ty France. Those are the guys that scare you. Like J.P. Crawford is nice. J.P. Crawford is nice.
And Julio on the IL.
Eugenio Suarez is most stinger since 2018 or something like that if you butter knife the stats. Jesse Winker. Can he really go? That would change things for them because he kind of hasn't all season. I know he hit a nice home run the other day. Let's see if they have any other moves in their chamber. Like I just said, Julio Rodriguez went down. That was tough. I think x-rays were negative and stuff, but scary moment there. They retaliated. They hit Altuve, so tune in to any Mariners-Houston games the rest of the way. But they sent kind of the first shot across the bow of this trade deadline. We hadn't been talking about them a lot. I'm not actually giving myself credit for this, but when we talked about it on Talking Baseball, I kind of had one of those moments like Seattle had played themselves into a nice position. They have a GM that is notorious for trading. This is supposed to be a busy deadline. When you put all of that in the pot, it makes sense. I thought they might go Willie Contreras. Mariners fans got a little mad at me because they like what Cal Raleigh's doing back there. No shame in Cal Raleigh's game. Wilson Contreras is one of the best hitting catchers we've seen in a long time. So, and he can end up on a number of teams. Unlimited teams. Like Trev keeps throwing out Houston, even though I think they love Machete. The Mets would love Wilson Contreras. I mean, Yankee fans haven't talked about it. Jose Trevino is an all-star this year, and we know they value receiving. But if they brought in Wilson Contreras, we would be pretty juiced up.
It's theoretically one of the places in the lineup that could be upgraded.
Go okay. They basically rotate catchers every other day. Wilson Contreras could DH other days. You would figure that out. That's how talented
some lefties.
That's how talented that guy is. So we're not there yet, but Wilson Contreras can still end up on any team. By the way, has to be traded. He's a rental, right?
Yeah, they have to move on from him.
So
that's why I always felt it was kind of weird when people would do the Gary for Contreras stuff because their player profile build is essentially the same. Contreras this year, I think, has taken a step up, but the same amount of time left and whatever. It's always weird.
So what else has happened and what else is going to happen? The freight train, David Peralta, my guy, Snakes legend. In the Snakes history book, big time. I don't want Jakey Silly to get in the way here because you guys know I'm a huge D-backs fan. Right now, this is getting overlooked because it happened after Benintendi and Castillo, and we're hoping that there's going to be crazy trades that go down. We are hoping that Juan Soto, a generational young player, is being played. People are still mentioning Ohtani. So David Peralta might not move the needle for you. I'll tell you what, OPS plus-wise, pretty close to Benintendi. Different profile hitters. More
age
pop
factor.
More pop, different age. Also a pure rental here. Some of the recent analytics on David Peralta has changed. I think he has the second highest barrel rate in the last month. He's changed his swing and his stats. Have have kind of showed that. He's swinging for more power, which, there you go. Baseball loves more power. I don't know what it means. The Rays haven't been on the radar this year, and I don't know how much they'll get into the radar. But what I do know is the Tampa Bay Rays are still very involved. The Rays are third in the East. They're currently in the wild card. They have so many injuries. And for me, it's what does this team actually look like come September or October? Because right now there's some stuff that's, for lack of a better term, stinky. The bottom of their lineup right now, Luke Raley, Taylor Walls, Brett Phillips, Christian Bettencourt. That's tough. That's, not saying this to be rude, you could show up and that could be a AAA lineup any day of the week.
Looking at their IL, and it's basically all the guys you came into this year knowing about besides Randy.
Right. So, if the Rays stay involved in this, which they're going to, Harold Ramirez had started to really go for them. He is on the IL. Will he come back? Manny Margot, electric, coach ball games guy. I don't know if he's full-blown game changer, but you'd rather have him batting 8th or 9th than Luke Raley. Not shots fired at Luke Raley, but just spitting the truth.
I think Rays fans in the past have said to us there's times when, like, Margot carries their offense.
When he's electric, he's electric. He's 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and a stolen base. There's a fake stat line for you.
Plus defense at a couple spots.
Brandon Lau hasn't been a big part of this season. He's now back. He's hitting for them. He's a really good hitter.
39 homers last year.
Yandy Diaz has kind of had a breakout season a little bit. He's been around, but his numbers stacked against the rest of the league have been good. So, right now, the top half of their lineup is listed as G-Man Choi, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Randy Arozarena, and David Peralta. Those are 5 major league guys that at different points could be, in the top half of your lineup. If they can get Wander Franco back and Harold Ramirez, we're now talking about the Rays with 7 guys in their lineup, which we haven't been able to say that all year. All year. By the way, you know who else came back for them? Pete Fairbanks in the bullpen.
We like him.
Their bullpen has a lot more familiar names than it did earlier in the year. Fairbanks, Adams, Brooks Raley, Poche, Thompson. Beeks is out there. Not giving him full love. I personally don't fully know who else they're getting back from their pitching. I know Tyler Glasnow is still throwing. Can he be a weapon for them in any way?
Fire Eisen gonna be back.
Fire Eisen.
Electric.
Shagwa has a strained oblique. Whistler has a strained neck. I am not deep enough in Rays culture right now to give you all those guys' timelines, but I would bet a couple of them are going to pitch at some point this season. Is Shane Baz done for the year? I don't know. We know the Rays can find pitching. They have more guys in the minor leagues. Seth Johnson's a prospect for them, and he really likes us and John Boy Media. He interacts with a lot of my stuff, so I'm rooting for him.
Rooting for that, then.
So we'll see if they do any other Rays sneaky stuff, but I'm telling you, it's nothing for now. But come early September, if the Rays,
The Rays have stuck around by then.
which they're going to, the Rays stick around. That's what they do. That we could be looking at the Rays through a very different lens. I know we naturally kind of big brother and poo-poo them because they play an ugly brand of baseball.
And for the first time in a few years, they're not at like the top of the division.
But I mean, they're, ALDS, World Series, ALDS the last 3 years. Some of these guys, if they get there, this is going to be their 4th straight playoffs. Like, pretty battle tested. you can sleep on the Rays for now, but come September, let me know what their IL looks like and who's around, because we could view them in a very different light than we have recently. So those are the trades that have gone down. Chris Martin went to the Dodgers. Talented guy, super tall. When he gets hot, he gets hot. He was with the Braves. He got hurt for their postseason run after coming from Texas. We'll see what they can tap into over there. After that, so talked a lot about it, and all that was brought to you by Floorball. Big game tonight. BBD and the We Got Ice Boys hit the Floorball court versus Broad Street Bullies.
Broad Street Bullies.
Who we played in game 1, right? Jules is an absolute star. If you know, you know. Like, I don't really like saying that phrase, but for her, it's true. Hockey Collective guys, Nick Bones, who's on here. He's on their team. Chris Rose's son, Brady, scored a goal off his knee. Illegal. Now, what is coming up for the rest of the trade deadline? Soto, as I've told you guys, I've been flip-flopping a little bit. I'm currently kind of flopped, but not because I'm currently flopped to he won't be traded, but I know I'm actually not. I'm just bummed out the trade deadline stopped. The David Peralta trade broke at 3:40 on Saturday. After Benny, after Luis Castillo, and it was like game time. Fire me up. It's been silent. Completely silent. So I don't know.
Yeah, not even any real rumors.
Not even like the tweet before the trade where it's like, oh, you know, these teams are close. Finalizing. Nothing like that. So I'm interested to see what's the next thing to go. Like I said, it feels like Soto's holding things up a little bit from a couple of the teams that want to make big moves.
And I guess Castillo, one, set a new market, also made it, like, Montas is the clear number one pitcher left now that, as far as total value, that, like, teams want to figure out if they can get him before any rental guy.
So let's do Montas, because I think Montas has entered an interesting category where, on paper, it's not too different than Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo has a career 3.62 ERA, 137 starts. Montas, a career 3.73 ERA, 121 starts.
They're the same age, right?
Similar ages. Montas had a PD thing a couple years back. Luis Castillo has like 10 more career WAR. And it's one of those funny things with baseball that, again, not a lot of their stat sheet is that far off, but pretty much the consensus with everyone I've spoken to is you'd rather have Castillo than Montas. I think there's some ballpark stuff that comes into play there. And there's just an eye test that comes with Luis Castillo that, like, he has the sauce.
He could, like, if you're a team acquiring him, you think he could start game one of a playoff series.
It's kind of like No Doubt, where with Montas, it's almost like, well, let's see, right? Like, you're leaving Oakland. He got recently banged up, but he's bounced back and he's looked solid. Montas is still the next biggest name on the block, and is Oakland trying to package him with anything else? And what does that look like? They have some other pitching options. Laureano's name keeps getting brought up. I know I think he's 2.5 years till free agency, a la Soto. We'll see what other trades Oakland has up their sleeves. Montas is the next to go. I don't think he's going to the Yankees. Maybe I have a misread on that. Every tweet with Montas and the trade rumors, the Yankees are mentioned last. I don't know. I could be very much overreading into that. But the Heymans and Nightingales that we know these people, a chunk of their sources are agents. Throwing in the Yankees helps. It really does. Agents do it to try to drive up final free agency bids. I think teams would do it to make sure they get the best offer. Like just saying the Yankees are involved, that does a little something. Maybe not a lot. If you're a good general manager, it shouldn't do anything to you. But it's the media. Media lames like us now. Sellouts. Whoa.
I'm ready to sell.
So that's the Montas deal. Wilson Contreras, again, I think he is an open board. Why wouldn't he be? I could DH or catch. Not a lot of teams have those. I guess rule like the Blue Jays out. So then the conversation turns to the wild card teams that are they buying or are they selling? The National League is pretty figured out. Excuse me, except one team. The National League East is figured out. Mets buying, Braves buying, Phillies will be buying 55 and 47. Good for them. I believe the top three in the NL East all swept this weekend. That's big. Philly's still doing this all without Bryce Harper, so when he comes back, there's some juice. Where else will they add? They traded for Edmundo Sosa, actually. That got overlooked. He was a guy that played some shortstop for the Cardinals.
Good glove.
Some glove. Good speed, athletic. Gives them an option. And they traded him for Jojo Romero, who's coming off injury. He hasn't done much in the bigs yet. I trust the Cardinals as an organization that Jojo Romero would be on the way up, but for the Phillies to trade away a pitcher who hadn't been really contributing to them, to bring in a guy that could potentially be their shortstop, I really like that move for them. But I'm not sleeping on the Cardinals side of it. I'm sure they're getting some sort of return in that in Romero, but a sneaky little move.
And on the Phillies end, like, we've been talking about it from a Yankees perspective. Like, who else playing shortstop is being traded for sure in the next 36 hours or whatever?
And dude, maybe maybe it turns into a really nice thing for them. I mean, Didi with the lefty bat, Sosa from the righty side. Maybe it turns into platoon thing. What's Stott up to? Bohm has been going nut job in the month of July. I think he hit. Let's get the numbers. They just updated. I want to say it was like 420, but I didn't want to,
Don't want to just throw that out there.
I don't want the Bakers to lose their mind as we start off August 1st. That's nuts, huh? Where does it go? I was looking at a picture from spring training, and I was like, that feels 3 years ago.
434 in the month of July.
So I would have lowballed him. You
one-dotted.
Massive July for Alec Bohm, alecbohm.com. The rest of the National League, the Brewers are buying. It feels like they're going to do some Brewers witchcraft stuff and either try to tap into a Gallo or do some little tweaks, some picks to click, and hopefully one or two do. Cardinals still get thrown in the Soto rumors. Feels like it's gotten quiet there. We'll see. They're 54 and 48. Ugh. Cubs selling. Reds selling. Pirates selling. Dodgers buying. What are they going to do? I know they got Chris Martin. Are they going to do more? I could see them doing some depth lineup stuff. Their bench does nothing for me. I still think their A lineup is, you can name it off the top of your head pretty much. But their bench, a little bit of funny business there. And then pitching. I mean, that's the question. Like, Jim was big, Luis Castillo to the Dodgers. Their pitching isn't what it looks like in previous years. They have a lot of guys on the way back, just like the Yankees do. So are they just going to bank on those guys? We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of teams left that haven't made any move. Yankee fans are antsy. Our office is antsy today because they're like, what are the Yankees going to do? They already acquired an all-star outfielder.
Hmm.
Like, they've made the second biggest move so far, and Yankee fans are antsy. The only team that if the deadline ended today would be happy would be Seattle. They got Luis Castillo. We'll see. They might do more.
Easily.
But all of these teams, the Padres are going to buy. They're supposedly going for a legendary trade. If not, Ian Happ and a pitcher.
They could get in on Contreras.
Like, if you're willing to pay for Juan Soto, are you willing to pay less to get Ian Happ and Wilson Contreras? I don't know. When's Tatis coming back? There's something. The only question mark in your National League is the San Francisco Giants. They're 51-51. Carlos Rodon is having another special year, capitalized by last night, Sunday Night Baseball. Is he available? And I don't know. I think, here was my thought process last night. We talk about athletes being, the most competitive people in the world, right? The people that are running teams in front offices are cut from very similar cloths. You want to win. So I guess for me, if I'm the San Francisco Giants, who won 107 games last year, your team is 500. Last year, the Atlanta Braves, they were at under 500 at a later point than this, only a couple games, and then they started to go. But you think San Francisco's front office is really telling themselves, like, trade, it's not the year? I don't know. They'd have to be pretty not proud, which could be a good thing for them. It could be a great thing for next year's San Francisco Giants if they traded away Rodon or some of their other veteran guys. I have a hard time seeing them do it. I think they'd ask for a pretty big price tag for Rodon. When the other side of it is, we can still go. If the San Francisco Giants go 8-2 in their next 10 games, they're probably like a game out of the playoffs. Every team thinks they can turn that on and hit that button. That being said, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They're about to play the Dodgers. So that's the other part of being an MLB GM that's just not as easy as it looks, that they're playing 4 with the Dodgers. Could they get 4 games swept by the Dodgers? And then it's like the decision would have been made. At the same time, if they sweep the Dodgers in 4 games, it's in San Francisco, would be really tough, 4 games. They could win that series. They host the Oakland A's after that. I see the Pirates and D-backs on their schedule. Then the Rockies and Tigers. So if you're the Giants, and just think about who you want to be. Like, if you're the Giants GM, we've heard Gabe Kapler is a high T guy. Heard that from Trev. Heard that locker room has high T guys. Evan Longoria. Like, if you're the San Francisco Giants GM and you walk down there after the trade deadline, and maybe you didn't do anything. Maybe you grabbed a reliever. Maybe you did one, like, they moved Jock Peterson, but they got another younger MLB guy.
That guy with time.
Retool. You retool. And you can go into that locker room and say, boys, I fought it off. I didn't sell. Now you guys need to make me look good. We've got the Pirates, the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, and the Tigers coming up. It's go time. Like, you don't think the boys are going to get fired up for that? You don't think instead of playing 2 months of meaningless baseball, that now you get to play 2 months of hopefully the most fun, intense baseball you've gotten to play? So I don't think the San Francisco Giants are selling. I could be wrong because, again, I think Rodon could bring you in a pretty price tag. But they still have their playoff formula, man. If they could somehow get in. Like the San Francisco Giants with Logan Webb, Carlos Rodon. I wouldn't really want to face those guys. The lineup doesn't scare you. I'll be honest. But they also have a lot of injuries. Brandon Crawford is out. Evan Longoria is out. Jock Peterson is out. There's 3 guys that could be in the middle of your lineup. Circle them as a wild card. The Yankees want more. I don't know what they're going to do. Touch upon a couple other teams. The Mets have made a couple small moves. Are they going to make another? They're supposed to get Jacob deGrom back. You'd like to think they're going to get a reliever type. I think they're going to be more or less quiet outside of a David Robertson or another reliever. Because if Jacob deGrom comes back, that's kind of what it's been all about. They've got pieces for their lineup. And they've been really good this year.
Mets fans, like every team, hoping for one more impact reliever. But every team could use that.
They would be fully satisfied at the deadline if they did that. IMO. The Atlanta Braves, people are starting to talk about more. Robinson Cano is currently listed as their second baseman. People have been talking about them for Ian Happ. They have outfielders. So I don't know. Doesn't feel like a pure fit for me, but don't sleep on them. They don't have glaring needs, but they made a lot of small moves at the deadline last year. Could that be their signature move? By the way, you want to talk about something fun. Mets and Braves 5-gamer this weekend. Thursday through Sunday. NL East. That's fun.
Huh.
That's fun. Interested. So we'll see what goes on there. Let's see who else in the NL East. Phillies, you know the story. Don't rule anything out with Dombrowski, and they're all in. Brewers feel like they're going to be chip, chap, chip. That's not a phrase. It's from an old Jim Gaffigan stand-up. Cards, half a wild card. Everyone else selling. Yankees, they got Benintendi. They're going to need innings help, we think. They've had a lot of injuries. There's rumors Zach Britton is supposed to throw to hitters. He was off Yankees fans' radar. If he can get a little over a month of baseball, interested in him. Aroldis Chapman looked a lot better recently. What will he be?
We'll find out this week if he's turned a corner or did he just get to face the Royals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a fair way
good
to
against
look
the
at it.
Pirates, too.
You know, do the Yankees actually believe in Domingo Germán? Do they believe in Clark Schmidt? Albert Abreu has been pretty solid for them.
When's Sevy coming back?
When is Luis Severino coming back? It still feels like they'd pick up an innings person at the deadline, whether it's a Quintana. You know, I've heard Tyler Mahle mentioned. He's really interesting. He's got some good numbers. I think he's a 1.5 guy.
I think you're right.
And I think he's, there'd be a decent price tag on him. Like his recent years have been pretty good.
If they think they can, if they're a tweak away from getting him to fully unlock the potential in that arm.
He's got some interesting road home splits. Someone DM me this weekend to say that. I'll say them on here. They're worthwhile. I forget if they're just this year or lifetime.
Even when the Yankees rotation was rolling 6 weeks ago or whatever, we thought they might go get an innings eater because they just have a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, and we're still a year removed from the COVID year, and that threw pitchers off. And if you're a pitcher that had an injury in that time frame, you're still even more thrown off, which a lot of pitchers do these days. Tyler Mahle, career 5.02 ERA at home, 3.74 on the road. And that's like 50 starts both ways. So it's a hitter's park. He's an interesting guy that's not being talked about a lot because I think everyone was talking about Luis Castillo from his team. That guy could end up on a contender. Jays. People think the Jays are going to make moves. People think Ian Happ could be a guy there. They could always use pitching or at least innings. and always a high leverage bullpen arm. You could say that about every team, so I'll stop. I mentioned the Rays. They're the Rays. Red Sox are 51-52. JD Martinez with some quotes making it seem like it was going to be his last homestand. I don't know. Kind of the same thing you say about the San Francisco Giants. They won 107 games. The Red Sox went to the ALCS last year. There's still a lot of talent on that team. Can they really send prospects to bring in other players? I don't know. Could they do a retool of sorts? Could you trade JD Martinez could you trade JD Martinez to the Mets and get JD Davis and some prospects and see if JD Davis could be your DH? I haven't actually looked at any of that in a trade scenario, but could they do a retool without selling everyone to try to still compete? Because the Red Sox are 3.5 games out of the wild card right now. That sounds good. They're last place in the East, behind the Orioles. I mean, it's by a half game. But they are in last place. They are currently 3 teams ahead of them in the wild card. It doesn't look good. By the way, they're about to play at Houston. So what does that record look like in a couple more days? I don't know what you do. You should sell, if we're being honest. But everything I said about the Giants, you could say about the Red Sox as well. Minnesota Twins, God, keep joking that they're going to get Syndergaard or Quintana. That's just such a Twins move. They only have a game lead on the Guardians. The White Sox are 2 games back.
Playing a better brand, still need to fully click. But
Twins
seems like a better
pitching
brand of
has
baseball
gotten
from
worse
them.
and worse by each month. They're starting to get the injury bug a little bit. Sano came back. He got hurt again. People are talking about like the end of his time on the Twins. A lot of highs and lows there. Still the biggest thighs I've seen in person. Miguel Sano.
Different kind of big.
Guardians are just a mid-festival. Like, Chris Rose thinks they're going to add people, but they could very well trade people away. Like, they stink for baseball fans. They should be a totally different conversation. They just had a couple more young guys get healthy and come back. Like, Cleveland's going to be involved in this season, but I don't see them making the trade deadline move everyone's looking for. Who just came back for them? Was it Ernie Clement or Owen Miller? One of those guys.
Maybe both. Both active right now.
Both currently active. My guy, Fran Mill. But not like a trade deadline threat that we know of. Prove me wrong. The White Sox got to be looking for a little juice. I don't think they have to make the big splash. I think, like every team, a reliever would be nice. But Louis Robert is supposed to come back soon. Their lineup is starting to get closer and closer to looking like the Chicago White Sox lineup. They are in the easy part of their schedule. Their next 10 games are Kansas City, Texas, Kansas City. I think they're going to make a small move for a second baseman like Donovan Solano. I said that seriously on Talking Baseball. Trev and Jim thought I was delivering news. I was not. If Louis Robert comes back right now, it's the White Sox you thought were going to be a part of this year. Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, A.J. Pollock, Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, Eloy Jimenez, Andrew Vaughn, Louis Robert. That's 8. And then your 9th right now is Josh Harrison, who, hey, he's played a lot of good Major League Baseball. He's not killing it this year by any means. If you get a little spark there, Donovan Solano, I think he's hitting like 330 for the Reds. Their rotation is who you'd think it was. Cease, Kopech, Giolito, Lynn, Cueto. Cueto's been really good for them. Their bullpen is starting to look right. Hendricks, Graveman, Kelly gets a little thin after that. You'd like another arm back there. The White Sox are starting to look like the White Sox and hit an easy part of their schedule. The Twins ship is sinking a little bit. The Garda, Cleveland mids. I think we're going to be talking about the White Sox a lot more soon. I mean, if they could go to the Reds and get Donovan Solano and a reliever. I think that gets them. I think we are a week and a half from talking about the first place Chicago White Sox and what that means for the rest of the season. But probably not a big deadline splash. Texas is trying to be funky because they want to compete next year, so you could see a weird trade come out of there.
They're like in on the guys with multiple years.
They might still sell a little bit, but they should be in on multiple years, guys. We'll see if anything happens there. Angels, disaster, sell. Detroit, same. Kansas City, same. Oakland, same. Which just leaves, I don't know what the Jays are going to do. The Yankees have their different paths. I just don't know what it looks like. They've got young, legit shortstop prospects, which teams love. It's who do they actually believe in? We heard they really believed in Oswald Peraza. He hasn't been called up this year. There hasn't really been an opportunity in the Yankees infield to do that.
There's that one IKF missed like 4 games thing.
Right, but he didn't actually get IL'd, so like...
Yeah, he ended up back.
It was the one time.
Do they actually believe in him? Anthony Volpe looks like the next Yankee. He's got professional interviews. His minor league numbers are crazy. He's just young. Do they actually think he's the shortstop of the future? Because then you can move Oswald Peraza and go get the big fish. We're going to find out what they think in the next 48. Are they kind of sitting on their hands? And then are they going to call up one of those shortstops? Because right now, that's kind of the weakness on the field for the Yanks. I don't know. I don't know if Cashman and the Yankees know right now. It probably depends what's out there. Houston, they'll probably do something sneaky and nice. That's just how they're wired. And that's kind of everyone. So, excited to see the chain start to move again for the deadline. It looked like it was happening. It clearly didn't for the last little bit.
Passan had his article today. He's like, well, last year we had a couple early moves and then hit a wall, and the last 48 hours were nuts.
Right.
Okay.
So,
I'm reinvigorated a little bit.
There's still very much... I think that's going to happen. It kind of has to.
And always the last 24 hours, there's going to be a flurry.
It was just... it was kind of funny how we got teased, and then it didn't go. And will Soto go? That's going to be the big one. There's your deadline update on Wednesday. We'll be here and cover some of it. I also want to get... BBD, could you ask Erica to do some trade deadline research?
Trade deadline.
Just like the top 5 trades from like the past few years. Just because... So, this was the conversation on Twitter. Because that quote keeps coming out like, this could be the craziest deadline ever.
So
and that does get said every
biggest
deadline.
move each of the last...
So, like, yeah, I mean, even if it was the last 10 years, like the top 5 moves, something like that. I know there's some opinion in there. But I actually want to know, when this trade deadline happens, and let's say Soto doesn't go. So if Soto doesn't go, the top 5 trades this trade deadline would probably be
Castillo.
Luis Castillo, Ian Happ,
Montas.
Wilson Contreras, Montas, and let's say there's another wild card of that ilk. Like, where would that actually measure up in recent trade deadlines? I don't know. But I figured maybe Wednesday we could find that out. And we'll review what trades did go down, what it means.
We're going to be live for, like, during the deadline, home stretch, and recapping for a little bit right after once we get all the moves in.
Yeah, so we'll probably share it on Talking Baseball in a minute, but we're planning on going live tomorrow from, like, what do we say, 4:30 to 6:30?
At least
still
that.
kind of the plan.
If something
maybe 4.
If something big happens earlier, we'll start
We'll
that
just
earlier.
fire it up. Yeah, I mean,
Get it
we're
going.
on call tomorrow.
We'll be here. You'll hear from us certainly for the last hour and a half before the deadline.
We are on call tomorrow. People just mentioned Rodon. And then, hey, that's the fun of the deadline. What if Soto and Ohtani actually did happen? It would be like one of the best days in baseball history. So let's get there. We will be there soon. Excited to enjoy it with you guys. We have Talking Baseball coming up after this. Teaser, me, BBD, and Trev, players only episode. Don't really think I'm going to jump around to other sports world. You're probably starting to get excited for football season as teams are actually going to camp and you're getting some updates. I saw Deebo Samuel got a big extension. That's exciting
nice.
for Niners fans and fantasy football fans. God, that guy's awesome.
Like a few weeks away from fantasy drafts and
Yeah,
stuff.
man.
Right?
I'm
Probably should. I gotta consult my guys.
I think I'm 3 weekends away from my fantasy football draft.
Oh wow!
So, the Jake Storielli Classic, as I'm renaming it, a lot of golf, fantasy football draft. Is there anything else that really happened in the sports world this weekend?
Basketball is the same kind of non-updates.
Deshaun Watson's suspension just came out.
That's a big one.
That just happened, 6 games. That's a big one. People are running hot on it because you can, because there's no guidelines for what we do. So Calvin Ridley gets suspended for a year for placing a bet on the Falcons to win. Deshaun Watson did a lot of stuff that I still don't fully have the details on it. Either way, not good. I guess the public doesn't fully know what levels of bad. Either way, not good. He gets a 6-game suspension. I think he's got 24 hours to appeal or something like that, so we'll see if that goes down. The majority of people seem not happy with it because, I mean, kind of what he did is
we have
worse.
the direct comparison to the Calvin Ridley thing.
I mean,
just
Calvin
happened.
Ridley, that's a really tough comparison. I mean, even Deflategate.
Yeah. It's just at the on the not to try to be on the other side, but there's no length that we would have been like okay with.
There's just no.
There's no winning.
There's
that
no
situation.
structure
I'm
for
not
it.
on the NFL's side or anything. Just
There's no structure for it. So we'll see what happens there. Again, and pretty much whatever opinion you have, you can feel right about it. That's kind of unfortunately the area there.
pretty much, unless you're a real freak, whatever your opinion is, I probably agree with you.
Wow. Freaks sound off
What?
in the comments. All right. Let's go on.
Before we do that, can I say something to you
Yeah.
in parentheses about the Yankees?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say this on Talking Yankees. I'm a little nervous because like the lineup, like they have like four slots like every day in like the A lineup that like they're not a threat to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I appreciate us emphasizing contact a little more.
Josh Donaldson's in a massive slump right now. It's ugly, and I don't know where that lands. Trevino is Trevino, and that's he was hitting.
Catcher position is what it is.
He was hitting. It slowed down a little bit. It gets really tricky. IKF, even when he's hot, he will not be a power threat.
He isn't a
He has
threat
0
to
home
hit a
runs.
home run.
It gets really tricky with Trevino and Higgy come playoff time. What do they look like? You're not really expecting offense from them. You really aren't. I mean, Trevi can give you some good at-bats. He has throughout the year. But
Even when he's hot, it's singles and doubles. Find the short part of a park.
so you just start doing a game of, okay, so let's assume we're not getting much from the catching position offensive-wise in the playoff. That's actually how this Yankees team was built. Trevi's been awesome, but it's in the back of Yankees fans' heads. That's what you're saying right now. If IKF is not a power threat and can arguably not be a threat at all, because when he's cold, he doesn't take walks. There's nothing. So now you got 2 spots in the lineup. So now if you have one guy slumping, you've got 3 guys. And now if someone gets hurt, that's how you have half a lineup. So that's...
Like Hicks has gotten cold again, and also he's in the group of kind of not a threat to hit a homer.
Stanton being out right now
Like Stanton will be
is
back.
big.
I guess the team's A like playoff lineup wouldn't have Aaron Hicks in it. Matt Carpenter is what he is.
Right. I mean, they should come playoff time as of right now would be, DJ Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Glaber, Benny. Matt Carpenter deserves a ton of credit. So that's 7 guys right there. And if Donaldson does figure something out, you can get that going. But yeah, that's where if the Yankees had an electric wild card of a shortstop hitting in the 9 hole,
even if
it would be badass.
Like, I really hope we see Peraza. Even just the glove stuff means he's at least what IKF is supposed to be, and that he's at least a threat to hit a homer, I think.
If Peraza came up and he sucked, you'd say, okay, well, go get it, IKF. It's the not knowing. It's the not knowing. Let's go to the comment of the day. Massive episode last time. I can't wait to tell Trev that he's still got the juice. One of our biggest episodes in a while. So thank you guys for tuning in. I think it was fed by Juan Soto in the trade deadline as well, because baseball can still steer the ship here. But massive episode. So thank you guys. Let's see what we've got for a comment of the day. Nathaniel Scannell said, need Trevor, Jake, and BBD in the Oregon wilderness as a show. Yeah, Trev landed there. That he's been on a big wilderness kick lately. So that's
Early
good.
November.
I'm not a big survival guy. I'm a post-apocalyptic guy. Some of those words didn't sound right at the end, huh?
Post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalyptic. I think I missed a syllable there the first time. Matthew Nauer said Giants are on a huge slide. They need to go full sell, Jock and Rodon, or full buy. It's tough, right? I mean, I think what I just said was kind of soft a little bit, that the Giants should almost sit on their hands or retool 1 or 2 pieces. But that team, as the GM, being the general manager, that team hasn't given you any reason to buy hard. I mean, that team hasn't given you... They also haven't given you any reason to sell hard. So you kind of want to rework or massage things that maybe you could get a change of something that gets things going. Again, that schedule eases up in a week or 2. I'm really interested to see. They're a true wild card in this. And then Alex Van Dierendock said that the Orioles should be a wild card for Juan Soto. I just don't think that's happening. The biggest value to Juan Soto is the 3 Octobers. Remember how often we were saying that? You get Juan Soto for 3 Octobers. I still don't think the Orioles plan on being involved next October. I mean, Birds fans, sound off in the comments, but...
And hey, if Soto doesn't get moved and the offseason's here, they have no reason to rush into that kind of trade, but they have the prospects.
I'm going to rule out Soto to Baltimore.
In the next 32 hours, I don't think that'll happen.
But I thank you for commenting, and thank you guys for tuning in. That was a big one. Appreciate you. The deadline, it's one of the better times of years. Drafts, trade deadline. It's a lot of hope. And we like hope in sports. So thank you guys for baking the algorithm. Make sure you're sharing, watching, and tuning in. My standout performance, I will go... I'm not going off the board. Maybe sometimes you guys look for the silly ending. I will go Bill Russell. All-time sports legend. Not just basketball, man. I mean, it's Bill Russell. He's a name that, if you're any sort of sports fan, you're familiar with Bill Russell. In a way, he embodied like all the best stuff about sports, just winning. I mean, being really good and winning, and just being like the consummate dude. Like almost any NBA event I could think of, Like, Bill Russell was there, and the players showed the utmost respect to him. He's kind of like, I feel how Yankee fans talk about Joe Torre. Like, Bill Russell has that with the whole NBA. Like, you respect Bill Russell. There's no middle area. There's no, like, I don't know, wasn't my kind of guy. Like, no. Bill Russell was the dude. It's always cool, man. Also, going back, the dude lived 88 years, which is crazy. There was some clips of him doing the high jump in college, and it was before they started doing the like throw your back over high jump. So he's just kind of like squirrel diving over, and he's this massive human, but he was just a different sort of athlete. University of San Francisco. People forget about the Dons being a superpower. But, yeah, man, I mean, they just did the NBA All-75 team this year, right?
Yeah, this past season.
And, Bill Russell was at the NBA All-50. And, seeing the video of that, there's an awesome clip of him talking to Kobe. A really awesome clip. If you can go look it up, Google Bill Russell and Kobe. And Bill Russell is telling Kobe, he's like, one of the things I did when I was playing basketball is I thought about, like, every player's agenda on the court. Like, what are they trying to do? And that helps you map out what their whole team is trying to do and how you can defend that and everything. And Kobe, in a very Kobe-esque way, as only he could, he cracks kind of a wry smile, and he's like, yeah, I do the same because I read it in your book. And it's just one of those cool things. It's just one of those really cool things. So, an all-time legend, Bill Russell, a little R.I.P.
And while it was said a lot around the time of Kobe's passing, but, Bill Russell's like one of the original, like, ambassadors of basketball. Like,
Yes.
basketball hasn't been that popular for that long in the grand scheme of the world and sports in a micro sense. So, like kind of all the basketball legends still sort of kicking it, so.
And they're
getting older, and it is one of the bigger losses ever in basketball.
A true fraternity. Like, they're a true fraternity of
Small.
You played this
rosters.
game, and you were, especially the elite, there's an utmost respect for each other that when you're J.J. Redick and you have a throwaway comment on the air about plumbers and stuff, that you'll get attacked by the whole squad. So, yeah. Who do you got, Beebs?
I'll go to the baseball. Get us a little lighthearted. James Outman.
Yeah,
Cool debut
that was
last night
cool.
for the Dodgers. 3 for 4, homer, double, triple shy of the cycle. Debut. Pretty cool.
James Outman, MLB. He hit a home run in the first at-bat, right?
Believe so.
Yeah. First at-bat, home run. So that's cool. Then he scares the cycle.
Dodgers needed the help,
Yeah. Yeah. No, they
Have they?
that organization knows what they're doing, man. They really do. They traded they traded away Zach McKinstry, who'd been floating around on their team for a little bit, for Chris Martin, and then that had them call up James Outman, who hit a home run in his first at bat and then almost a cycle. So, yeah.
By the way, Dodgers, by win percentage, have passed the Yankees for best record in baseball.
Yeah. I wonder who they're missing from their lineup right now. Chris Taylor's rehabbing.
He'll be back.
So, yeah, that's the only main piece. Yeah, I think they'll tweak something to their bench, although Trace Thompson's been playing out of his mind. Right now, James Outman.
On the roster.
Right now, they kind of have a rotating DH spot, but when Chris Taylor comes back, he can rotate around everywhere, and then everyone can DH.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get a depth bench piece.
While we're on the topic of the Dodgers, kind of a mini bro to Justin Turner. He was in one friendly
friendly.
We've met him a couple times now. And he was like in a bad way to open the season. We did a whole episode on the team, guys that had bad first months. And he, since then, OPS in the mid to high 8s. His season numbers he's climbed back to a little above a league average season.
Yeah.
So good for Justin Turner. Because I was looking at some Dodgers numbers and like Muncy still hasn't clicked.
Yeah.
He's having like a full bad year. He was an MVP candidate until kind of the end last year.
Turner 1 dotted in July. That's not bad.
That'll play.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. The Wake and Jake community, you guys are the best. And I think this time of the season with baseball, you guys get rolling, and then even some football to start. That gets rolling. We'll mix in a couple more guests. Probably don't need one this week. I think we're going to have a full Wednesday. Maybe we'll bring in some baseball nerd to talk baseball with us. We'll see. Go over the deadline. Other than that, tune into Warehouse Games, YouTube tonight. King BBD and the We Got Ice Boys going on in floorball. Everyone's been loving the floorball. It's awesome. Trade deadline, we're going to be live when we need to be. We're hoping a Yankees trade breaks today, and we'll be talking Yanks today. Otherwise, we're ready. We will see. Talking baseball after this, and then we're on call for there, and then everything else. Pinstripe Strong, Rose Rotation, Adley Rushman, awesome. Check that out. Talking Giants, they're starting to go. Pinstripe Strange, Farm to Fame, all of it. You guys are the best.
Giolito also good on Rose last week.
Let's have a week. Bake it.